Over the past few years, a fascinating group of people has caught the attention of doctors and researchers studying cholesterol and metabolic health. They're called lean mass hyperresponders, or LMHRs. Lean mass hyperresponders are individuals who adopt a ketogenic diet. And that's important. They're eating a ketogenic diet, and they experience a significant rise in LDL cholesterol, but in a specific metabolic context. So by definition, LMHRs have LDL cholesterol above 190 milligrams per deciliter, HDL cholesterol above 80, and triglycerides below 70 milligrams per deciliter. Although, as with many medical definitions, the cutoffs are more suggestions than hard and fast rules, but you got to pick somewhere. But that's the general phenotype. And importantly, these individuals tend to be lean, physically active, insulin sensitive, and metabolically healthy. And thus the hypothesis is that the LDL goes up so much because they're burning mostly fat for energy, since they're in ketosis, but they have a high demand and not a lot of internal fat stores. Thus, they depend on the lipoproteins to deliver fatty acids to the muscles and organs in their body for energy. So I emphasize this as a hypothesis, but it sure does make a lot of sense. Now, this hypothesis, though, is important because at first glance, many clinicians assume that these individuals have familial hypercholesterolemia, or FH, which is a genetic condition associated with high LDL and increased cardiovascular risk. And really, that's the only other clinical scenario where we see LDL levels this high. So it makes sense that the, uninformed would assume all these individuals have FH. But here's the key point. By definition, lean mass hyperresponders do not have familial hypercholesterolemia. By and large, they don't have the genetic mutations and don't have the personal and family history of heart disease that defines FH. Their LDL rise happens after dietary carbohydrate restrictions, not at birth like with FH, and often reverses when carbohydrates are reintroduced, and it occurs alongside excellent metabolic markers, low insulin, low triglycerides, high HDL. That pattern is fundamentally different from FH. And this brings us to the big unanswered question. Is elevated LDL cholesterol the same risk factor for heart disease if it's in metabolically healthy people on a ketogenic diet as it is in the general population, a population which is on average metabolically unhealthy? You see, most of our cholesterol risk data comes from people eating high carbohydrate diets with high insulin levels, higher triglycerides, more inflammation, and widespread metabolic dysfunction. LMHRs challenge that framework. In these individuals, the rise in LDL appears to be linked to energy trafficking, the body moving fat efficiently to tissues for fuel when carbohydrates are restricted. In other words, LDL may be elevated not because of disease, but because the body's adapting to using fat as its primary energy source. But we don't know if that matters or not, and that's the problem. So I need to emphasize, this does not mean that elevated LDL is automatically harmless. It means we don't yet know whether LDL carries the same risk across radically different metabolic states. And that uncertainty is exactly why LMHRs have become the focus of growing scientific interest, and why this question deserves careful study, not assumptions. And a new documentary called Cholesterol Code explores this LMHR phenomenon, following real people, clinicians, researchers, and individuals living as LMHRs as they wrestle with these questions. It highlights the gaps in our current understanding and asks whether context, metabolic health, insulin levels, dietary patterns truly matters when it comes to cardiovascular risk. And the best part is you can learn more by attending a screening of the documentary. It doesn't mean you have to 100% believe the hypothesis. The documentary is all about exploring the topic, asking challenging questions, and sharing the stories of those who are living it. If you go to cholesterolcodemovie.com, there's a big button that says Attend a Screening, where you can see where the screenings are scheduled and can join one near you. So this documentary doesn't claim to have all the answers, but it does ask the questions. And sometimes that's how science moves forward. And it's questions like these that force us to either reaffirm or break down our long-standing assumptions. So I hope you found this useful, and I hope you get to see the Cholesterol Code movie and keep following the journey as we continue to learn more. Right, the movie is sort of just the starting point. We're going to continue to learn more with more research and more information. So as always, thank you for watching. I'm Dr. Bret Scher, and we'll see you here next time at Metabolic Mind, a nonprofit initiative of Bazooki Group.